Okay, hopefully you can all hear me. Hi, Ashley. I'm trying not to sit as close to the desk. It's just a pain here. Here, let me see. All right. Oh, that'll do it. Okay. Hi, Julia. I prefer sitting further back like this, but then I have this microphone that I have to deal with, so that's not gonna work. Hi, Rita. Okay, so let's get into our topic. We have a few that have joined. Now, if you are a member, head over to my members live. I just did because I'm doing a $10 coffee card to whoever answers the questions that I asked right. Whoever answers them correctly gets that gift card. So if you are a member and you have not watched it, it's a very short, like 2-minute video. Hey, Janello, go ahead and head over to the members live. I just did. That's a little Christmas gift. Thank you. I do normally do a $5 coffee card giveaway to a few women for my public channel, and I will probably do that possibly next week. So I asked in the Gently Led Sisters group for some topic suggestions related to this season or a season that you're going through or struggling with. I got a few really good suggestions. I'm going to have my friend Amanda on to talk about one of them. Basically, what advice would I give to someone who is married but has literally zero training when it comes to being a homemaker, and they're starting from scratch, like literally starting from scratch, and they have not had a lot of the training that a lot of other, young married women their age have had. So, and they're just feeling overwhelmed and they're struggling. And so I'm hoping to have my friend Amanda on to talk about that because she also started from ground zero. I did not. I was brought up, I was the oldest of 5, so I learned very quickly how to run the home, how to clean, how to do meals, and I went right into my role with no issues. It was actually pretty easy. And then we had a kid 9 months after we got married, so I was thrown right into the motherhood thing as well. But this week, I want to talk about facing burnout in the Christmas season and the holiday system. System. Is it a system? Who knows? Conspiracy theory. Ooh. Facing burnout in the holiday season. There we go. And then also loneliness in the ministry. I've had a few ministry wives reach out to me in the current days and just very recently. And they've asked, they've told me I'm struggling. Like I'm struggling. I feel lonely. I kind of feel like I'm in an island. What are some tips that you can give me to help me with that? And oh boy, can I go into that. Um, been there, done that. And yeah, I know I'll go through it in the future. So I do have some tips that will hopefully help you if you are currently facing burnout or loneliness in the ministry. But the facing the burnout in the Christmas season, that's kind of geared towards everyone. Minister wife or not, we all face this. So I thought I would combine both of these subjects since I don't have many or a lot of ministry wives who do watch, but I do have some who have reached out to me and asked me to talk about the specific subject. I do know that during this time of year and in the winter months, especially, we all face burnout, whether that is spiritual or physical, mental, emotional, from all of the demands that the holidays bring. So what are some ways that we can prepare ourselves and make sure that we don't end up just hating the holidays, hating anything that has to do with it, and just dread every year? We dread the holidays. We don't want to, have anything to do with that. Okay, so really funny story. Last Wednesday, we were driving to church. I always get my Dunkin', like, this is one way to stay in the holiday mood. Their holiday flavors are really good. I always get a Dunkin' before church on Wednesday night. And when we were driving out, across the road is this bank, and it has all these trees, and they were decorated really pretty. And Kelly just goes, "Oh yes, that just makes me, I just feel like Christmas." And it was super cute when she said that. She's just like, "I feel like Christmas." And then Lana goes, "Yeah, I feel like Christmas too. I remember that Christmas feeling." And then Allie was in the back seat and she piped up and she's just like, "Lana, you're literally living in that age right now where you feel it all the time. So I thought that was pretty funny. And I started talking to my husband about it the rest of the way at the church. I was like, I remember back to feeling that Christmas feeling. I said, and now as an adult with 8 kids and some in-law kids and some that are about to be in-law kids, I said, I don't feel that as often because I'm so stressed out from like, I have 9 people to 10 people to buy for now that I have to plan. I have to make sure everyone has the same amount of gifts. I have to make sure I spend like exactly the same on each kid. I have to, spend hours searching for the perfect gift and make sure I order it in time. And then I have to wrap them. And I was like, and he said, yeah, he's like, when you're an adult, some of that Christmas feeling is just gone because you have so many responsibilities. I was like, yes. And I'm in charge of my kids' childhood and I'm giving them those special Christmas feelings and those special Christmas memories. And so a lot of the burden of holidays is on the mom. Let's just be honest. And so I don't think that you should just forego it altogether. It would be a lot easier for me to just be like, oh, we're not doing Christmas. But I feel for me and my kids, I would be taking away a big slice of their childhood by doing that because some of my most fondest memories are those Christmas traditions, those things surrounding holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. And, I want to make sure that I give my kids those same memories that I had, growing up. So, what are some ways that we can avoid the holiday burnout? Prepare financially. There are many families where December 1st rolls around and they just panic. Well, as Dave Ramsey used to say, December 25th never changes. Christmas is coming, and there are different programs that you can get into through your bank, through places of employment where you have Christmas savings clubs. And what they will do is they will automatically take $50 out, $100 out of each paycheck, and it goes into a special savings account. And then come, November or December, you can pull that money out and then you can use it for the holidays. We used to do something similar before we started getting a Christmas bonus from the church. And we do have a wonderful church family and they do give us Christmas bonus. And that's primarily, it's barely covering it now, but that's primarily what I use as our family grows, right? I have to find different avenues. And that's where teaching piano lessons comes in helpful during this time of year for a little side income coming in, but they are very giving and we get a Christmas bonus every year. So we don't have to rely so much on whittling away money throughout the year, but we used to. We knew Christmas was coming. We knew we did not want to go into debt for something that happens every year. We knew that, things weren't worth going into debt for. So we would, at the beginning of the year, when we got our tax refund, we would actually put aside like 1,000 or 1,500. We'd put that aside and we would not touch that the whole year. And it was hard, but we were pretty disciplined because that would be our Christmas bonus to ourselves. When November, December rolled around, I would then use that for the Christmas presents and all that. So we've never gone into debt for Christmas. We live within our means. Once the cash runs out, that's it. And I have to figure out, how to get my hands on extra cash, if that's whittling it off the grocery budget. And then I just cook completely from scratch for the next week, whatever, I have to come up with some other way, but we don't put it on the credit card. So don't go into debt for something that's going to happen every year. That's definitely a suggestion I have. Another thing is quality over quantity. I know for one of my kids, they asked for basically one present that most of their Christmas money will be spent on. And they really wanted an espresso maker. And that was their like, this is all I want, but that's most of the Christmas money. And they're fine with that because they realized they would rather have something nice that they've been wanting versus a lot of little gifts, slippers, body wash, that stuff is going to be used up in a matter of days, weeks, whatever, where something that's nicer that you spend a little bit more money on is going to last a long time. So I definitely believe in quality over quantity. I definitely believe if you have skills, make them things. I don't know if you've seen the reel going around that talks about since when did we stop giving these types of gifts? And it's like homemade bread, scarves, knitted scarves, different sewing projects, things like that. And I, for one, I would love getting a gift like that. Like Nicole always makes me for every year for my birthday, she makes me sugar cookies. Well, anyone that knows me knows that I'm like a sugar cookie. That is my weakness. Except, I don't know, that cake you made yesterday is pretty high up there by those sugar cookies. But I would still, I just love sugar cookies. In fact, the coffee that I got is brown sugar cookie flavoring and almond shot of flavoring, and it tastes like a Christmas cookie in a cup, and I love it. And so every year, that's like one of my favorite birthday gifts. I love getting Nicole's homemade sugar cookies because if you've ever had her baking, it's delicious. And just knowing that she made them with love and all of that, it means a lot to me. It's very special. Now I put the pressure on her and she's going to have to make it for me next month. But, hey, no pressure for the sugar cookies. But yeah, I love gifts like that. I love her sourdough bread. I love all the little things that the ladies in church make. I love all their, face things, lip things. Stuff like that means a lot to me personally. So I think it is good to maybe get your kids interested in gifts that are going to have some type of meaning like that, so, but yeah, prepare mentally for the season that's about to come. I know for me, first of all, how do I say this? I have learned to not go looking for that Christmas feeling or expect it to be there. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so to describe the Christmas feeling, one year when I was telling my kids this, one year when I was probably 9 or 10 or something, and I might have told this story before, but my mom had taken a nap, and she must have been taking a nap with my younger siblings too, because I was the only one up in the house, which was kind of rare because I was the oldest of 5. So I would have maybe had 2 younger siblings at this time, 3 maybe at the most. And we had decorated. The Christmas lights were on. Those were the only lights on in the house. And she let me sit down and watch Peanuts Christmas. And I'm sitting there all by myself, which was awesome. Maybe being the oldest of 5 and always being around people, even though I'm an extrovert, I do crave my alone time sometimes. So I was sitting there, the house was quiet, and the Christmas lights were on, and Peanuts Christmas was playing. And at the end, they're singing Hark the Herald Angels Sing. And I will never forget that feeling. It was like just a feeling of all is right with the world, that Christmas feeling, contentment, happiness, joy, all rolled into one, and like everything was right with the world. I do normally feel that at some point during the Christmas season. And I'm going to say it's usually when I'm sitting there drinking my coffee and my fuzzy robe and my slippers right after we've read the Christmas story and I'm watching my kids open those presents. Well, I have found in years past that if that magic feeling just didn't happen for whatever reason, I was stressed out, whatever, I would get really depressed over it. So I have since learned in the past 5, 6, 7 years where I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to go with the flow. And at some point that feeling is going to hit, but I'm not going to go looking for it. I'm not going to try to set it up so that it happens. If it happens, it happens. And I guess I just keep my limitations low. I know I'm going to be burned. I'm going to be running on lower sleep, but we're going to get to that. You do need to know your limits and take care of yourself physically, limit sugar, get enough sleep, work out, eat healthy. For me, I still have weight loss goals. So this one is not very hard for me, but I still have weight loss goals and I don't want to gain back all the weight that I've lost over the year. I'm still over 30 pounds down. I do want to keep that off. I've noticed my weight fluctuating a little bit since I cut out all my fasting. My 36-hour fast. And I'm trying to get back into the swing of doing that again. 36-hour liquid fast only. I need to get back into the swing of things because that really keeps my weight level, keeps me from gaining weight. So for me, even though it is the holiday season, I plan ahead. So if I know I'm going to have a higher calorie day, and remember, I'm not pregnant or nursing, so this is not for pregnant or nursing moms. But if I know I'm going to have a higher calorie day, I'll adjust for it. Earlier in the week, I might fast 36 hours. I might fast 48 hours. I might do a 24-hour fast. And that for me is what keeps my calories within check so that I'm not gaining weight, as I'm doing this. So I plan ahead for special days and holidays included. Just because of the holidays doesn't mean it's time to gorge yourself with sugar, candy, cookies, know your limitations, know that stuff makes you feel bad. Keep your kids on as much of a schedule as you can. There's going to be times when that's exceptions. This past weekend was one for my kids, and believe me, it showed. The babies both slept till 9 a.m. Beauty of homeschooling. They both slept till 9 a.m. today, and that never happens. Like they're up by 7 every day. And I knew it was going to be because we've had a lot of late nights. We had guests in from Florida. So we were with them till late Friday night, late Friday night. Then we had the Christmas banquet Saturday night. We didn't get them to bed till later. Then Sunday night, we did not get them to bed till later as well. So by Monday morning, they were feeling it. And it was a Monday today for sure. But from here on out, we don't have anything. We're not going to have a weekend like that again, I guess. So I'm going to try to consistently keep them, even when we take our break, in bed by 8, so on and so forth. If you have naps, if your kids have naps, try to keep them on naps. Do online shopping if necessary. I will say this has changed my life because my husband and I used to have to physically go out and find all the kids' Christmas presents, go from store to store, bringing home our treasures. And online shopping has really streamlined things for me. So you can usually find good deals. I know I had one daughter that she sent me a couple pictures of specific outfit combos that she wanted, like floral skirt, cute little cardigan, Converse shoes, different things like that. So I searched around till I found a good deal on Converse shoes. I then looked at Kohl's for the outfit that she wanted, but it was so overpriced. So I kept the picture. I went on Shein and I found almost things identical to what was on Kohl's, but for like a third of the price. And so there are different ways that you can pinch a penny when you're trying to shop for the family. And online shopping has completely changed my life. Everything that's in the store at Walmart, you could still get those Black Friday deals on Walmart.com. And if you have Walmart Plus, they will ship it directly to your home. Amazon, those are the main places I do my shopping. So don't forget the basics when going through busy times in your life. And the basics for me include food for my family, meals for my family, making sure they're fed. School is a big one. I don't like to slack on school. I don't like to take time off. I'm very regimented about that. I have scheduled time off, but I don't do this thing where, well, we're having a bad day, so we just take off school. No, I'm pretty consistent with school. We had a week off for Thanksgiving. We'll have 2 weeks off for Christmas. So, and that'll be scheduled, but knowing that we have that scheduled time too, you just kind of want to push through it until you see the light at the end of the tunnel until you take that time off. Bible reading is another one you don't want to slip with your kids, with yourself. And then definitely time with your husband. You don't want to get to the point where you're just kind of passing each other, in the hallway. So for me, that looks like going to bed at the same time as my husband. So at least we have a little bit of time to just reconnect and talk about our day. That includes, we've been into putting on documentaries, laying there watching them. That's our time away from everyone else. We get the babies to bed, and then that's kind of our time. So that's kind of what we do as a way to just reconnect. Also, I was telling Flo Matthews about it yesterday. We took their family out to eat after church, but normally what happens is my older girls take all the kids home, and then my husband and I, we go to Culver's. Normally is where we go. Culver's, Jimmy John's, someplace to eat. And that's kind of our time to just decompress, because Sundays are busy days. We're here the whole day. We're talking to people. We even get worn out ourselves. So that's our decompression time just from the busy day. And that's just kind of something that we do. So find something that works for you. And then instructing your kids in the way of Christ. Don't forget that Christ is the reason that we're doing all this. Christ is the reason we have the special music, and Christ is the reason we're celebrating Christmas. And and all those things. My husband did a really good Sunday school lesson yesterday, basically talking about if Christmas was pagan. And it was really good. I agreed with a lot of it. I agreed with all of it, not a lot of it, but I agreed with all of it. And if you want to check that out, that's really good on his channel. Something about that. But basically the whole gist of it is almost everything is going to have pagan roots. And I just for fun one time, I took my phone and I started Googling coffee and pagan roots. And everything had something connected to paganism because we come from pagans. That's, that's where we come from. We descend from them. So everything is going to have connections to that. But the main gist was, why do you celebrate what you celebrate? Why do you celebrate Christmas? Is it to celebrate the birth of Christ? Then it's not pagan. Why do we do the things that we do? And so he obviously puts it a lot better than I do, but it was really good. If you've had questions about whether or not your family should celebrate Christmas, whatever, that was a really good lesson that he did just about paganism and holidays surrounding paganism and what should we as Christians do. And there's verses talking about, basically things being holy to them that are holy or whatever, or, and then obviously there's verses in not judging someone for doing Christmas, but in the reverse, not judging for someone for not doing Christmas. We should all just respect each other's convictions when it comes to this. But for our family, we have decided that Christmas is not pagan for us. So we're going to celebrate it. But that being said, we need to keep Jesus as the main focus. We need to be telling our kids, reiterating why we're doing what we're doing, and everything. So that was a really good little Sunday school lesson he did on his channel, Liberty Baptist Church channel, just about that subject. So limit what you do. Say no if you have to. Know your limitations. Say enough is enough. I really got to sit this one out. Obviously as the pastor's wife, if we plan something, I can't do that. I have to be there. But if you have to say no, you have to say no. And then this is something that my husband and I both like to do for ourselves. We like to plan something after the craziness, or just a getaway for us to relax, for us to recuperate. Just after we've had a really busy season in our life, it's just a time for us to reconnect with each other. So normally that happens for us in January. Usually it's around my birthday because it's just a good excuse to kind of get away. So my birthday's at the end of January. So normally that's kind of what we do. I usually plan a trip just because by then I'm sick of the cold, which to be honest, it has not really been that bad this winter so far. So I don't want to say too much because then we're going to get hammered with snow after I say something. But moving on to my second part, loneliness in the ministry. All right. And I've had women specifically reach out to me regarding this because they're having a really hard time. They feel like they're on an island, and some of them are. I don't have many friends in the ministry. Maybe they're in a tiny, tiny church. And I'm going to say that my heart goes out to you because I have been there. We started our church. Okay. 13 years ago, we started our church. No one in this town knew us. We started with just our family. We started from the ground up. Our first service, we had quite a few people there. We had about 60 or 70 from the community, and we had 30 or 40 helping us. But that was because for weeks and weeks and weeks, we pounded the pavement, handing out, announcing this. The newspaper did an article about how we were going to be starting that helped bring in some people. Every week, we saw it dwindle. We saw it go from 60 to 40 to 20. And then 15, and we kind of hovered there for a little bit. Then we started slowly going back up. And for about 12 years, I felt like it was one step forward and two steps back. We'd get a big influx of families, and then something would happen. They would stop coming for some reason or another, and then we'd be back down, and then we'd be back up, and then we'd be back down. And that's just the way it goes with ministry. You have to realize that we have seasons all the time. We have exciting seasons, and we have very slow seasons, and we have happy seasons, and we have depressing seasons, and we have seasons where we're on top of the world, and then we have seasons where we're very hurt by different circumstances that happen in the church. Ministry life is definitely one of highs and lows, ebbs and flows, tough times and good times. And it will be like that until you die, or till you retire. It's going to be that way. That's just how it is. I think we need to ditch this prosperity gospel mindset. And that is the mindset that focuses on numbers, church size, number of converts, etc. Do you know back when we had a big missionary boom, there were some missionaries that would go to places that it would be years before they saw their first soul turn to Christ. It would be years and years and years. That didn't make their ministry any less important than the one who was getting them weekly, or monthly. Everyone serves an important role in whatever ministry that they are doing, and that ministry is going to look different for every single person. God is going to give us all different congregation sizes. God is going to give us different towns. God is going to give us all different places to serve. I've heard preachers making fun of pastors who serve in rural country, like where we live. And they make fun of them for not being in a big city, because that's where they're going to get the most people. That's where they're going to get the most numbers, is in the city. Well, you know what? Rural people, farm people, country people, they need a church to go to too. The church that we're at, IFB Church, we are the only one within about a 35-mile radius. The only one. Down in the Bible Belt, that's going to be a little different, obviously. But for here, we knew that there was a need for an IFB church. So that is why we chose Sterling Rock Falls area. My husband's been mocked. Just go live under a rock in Rock Falls. He's been mocked for being in a smaller town, which is just ridiculous, because small towns need good churches. Big towns need good churches. Middle-sized towns need good churches. So bloom where you are planted. Wherever God has called your husband, just be there faithfully serving with him. And just realize that if your husband is preaching to one person or your husband is preaching to 1,000, it is important. What you do is important in the eyes of God. And I feel like it's this prosperity gospel that came from like Joel Osteen and these other like new agey type preachers, where they have everyone focus on the numbers or the church size. If you're right with God, God's going to send you all these, people. If you're right with God, you're going to have a bigger influence. If you're right with God, I think we're going to be surprised when we get to heaven and we see the rewards that some people get that no one knew of, but they were just faithfully serving God and their small community. They were reaching the lost in their small community. They had a good marriage. They raised faithful children. They changed lives in the town that they were in, and God is going to just heap the rewards on them. No one knew them. Men didn't know them. Their names weren't known online, but God knew. God knew, God saw the heart. God knew how faithful they were. So we definitely need to ditch this prosperity gospel mindset. Don't listen to depressing people, maybe that want to mock you for, you chose a church of 10 people. What is wrong with you? Don't listen to depressing people. We don't need that type of depression in our life. Remember who you're serving and who you are doing it for. This has helped me the most. Obviously, we've had very hurtful things happen. You're going to have hurtful things in the ministry happen. You're going to have people say really nasty things. You're going to have people lie about you. You're going to have people spread rumors about you. But those who know you and love you won't even believe that stuff. They'll know, you're going to find out who your true friends are. You're going to find out who has just been pretending to be a friend all of these years. And then one week, someone will be saying really good stuff about you. The next week they turn on you like that. And suddenly you're the worst pastor's wife. You never cared about them, blah, blah, blah. And they're going to be spreading that to people. And so if I was in it for the reaction of people, if I was in it for the nice things people said to me, if I was in it for a return, I would have quit a long time ago, because people let you down. People are going to say hurtful things about you. People are going to turn on your husband so fast. And being married to your husband, your husband's character. You live with him day in and day out. You see how he interacts with his kids. You see how he prays for his church members and how he loves his church members and how he thinks good of all his church members. He doesn't think ill of anyone. You see the effort and time that he puts into everything. And so when people start lying about him, you're going to want to be all Joan of Arc and defend him to the death. But just remember that, you know, it's not our place to avenge. It's not our place to seek vengeance as much as we want to. And that is part of my personality. I want justice. You know, I want truth to come out. And just realize that we're not in it for those people. We're in it for God. And if we keep God as our main focus, then it's not going to matter when people say things about us. It's not going to matter when we have a church split. It's not going to matter when they lie about us. It's not going to matter. You know, obviously our heart is hurt because we do want people to do good with their life. We want to see their family succeed. We want to see them be a part of our church because we truly do love them. But at the end of the day, we're in this for the Lord, and we're doing this for the Lord. We're trying to win souls for the Lord. We're trying to have lives changed for the Lord so that they can then raise their kids and their kids can change the world for the better. That's why we're in it. So be a friend. It's really hard when you've been hurt to open yourself up to people that come in the church. It's hard to let that guard down. And I am specifically speaking to ministry wives. And honestly, the only ones who really are going to understand this are ministry wives, because you won't understand it until you go through it. It's like someone who has a kid with special needs. You never will understand it until you go through it. Someone who has a kid with autism, you'll never fully understand it until you have a kid with autism. Someone who has cancer. I can't relate with that because I've never had cancer. That's why I don't even like talking about things on the show that I've not had experience in, because I don't know. I can't relate like someone who's been there. And so ministry wives will know where I'm coming from when I say this, but it's very hard to just let your guard down, but you need to. And you need to be a friend without thinking, what happens if this person turns on me? You know, you need to be a friend without thinking that, because you don't want to hold like the sins of others in the past against someone who comes into your church. You don't want to just keep thinking, what if they do this? What if they do that? What if they do what this person did? Because then you're going to have walls up and your guard is going to be up, and it's not fair to them. So that being said, be quick to forgive people, but you don't have to trust someone who has proven themselves to be untrustworthy. And this reminds me of like abusive people who will just like pummel you and pummel you and pummel you, maybe verbally, mentally, whatever. And then when you finally defend yourself or you decide to walk away, you're the bad person. You know, the victim is the bad person. But you can choose to forgive that person that's been abusive towards you, but you don't have to trust them again. You know, you don't have to be their friend. And I'm not talking so much about that. That's more when it comes to people within the church, you kind of got to learn how to get along. So I'm talking about more people outside the church that may have hurt you or done something to you. But forgiveness is so necessary when you go to a church, because we're all going to offend each other. I'm going to offend some of my church ladies at some point. And hopefully I'm able to just recognize that and apologize right away. I'm really sorry that came out the wrong way. I've done that before. I'm like, man, that came out really harsh. I did not mean it that harsh. I'm really sorry. That was uncalled for to be that harsh. You know, let me reword that, or let me approach that in a different way. Let me approach that in a gentler tone. You know, I tend to be this is the way it should be. And so I have to really temper that into looking at it from their perspective or their point of view. You know, remember your only job. I hear sirens. Siren went by. Remember, your only job as a pastor's wife is to be the pastor's wife. There is no pastor's wife requirements like in the Bible. Now, it does talk about deacons' wives. So obviously, I do feel pastors' wives should be like what they give for the deacons' wives. But your job, there is no like requirement for pastor's wife in the Bible. It does kind of fall on the pastor. So your only job as a pastor's wife is to be the pastor's wife. So for me, I try to just do whatever I would do as a regular member attending. Okay. So do whatever you would do as a member attending. You know, Sarah, this is so funny because this reminds me of a story, and I don't even know if this person will remember it, but We have had so many people upset at us from a certain crowd because we stand against profanity and against using foul language, right? Well, I don't know if she'll remember this. I'm not going to say her name, but I have a friend from church in church. And I remember, yes, we stand against language and profanity, but we also realize, especially if you were saved later in life, that might be something that's going to be hard for you to overcome. And it's not like we're going to throw you out of our church if you accidentally let one slip. Okay. So because we know that forgiveness goes into play with church matters, with, friendships and relationships. I remember one time one of my friends was driving somewhere and she had a couple of my daughters in the back and someone almost hit her and she let a curse word out. And I remember when she got back, she was almost in tears because she felt so terrible that this had happened in front of my daughters. And I think this was like in the beginning part of our relationship. And I just remember I told her, I'm like, listen, I said, you feel bad for it. You apologized. I said, that it ends there. Like, I understand it happens. I'm not going to like have you come before the church and throw you out because you accidentally let one fly in front of my kids. I said, my kids are going to hear that at times, even when we go out in public and things. I said, as long as they know that, like, for the McMurtry home, that's not acceptable, that's okay. I said, I don't think you're a terrible person. Cause she's like, I'm so sorry. It just came out. Like I've struggled with, language in the past and it just came out. And I was like, listen, I understand, and you tend to be forgiving of people you truly love, right? Now, if I would have been like some people, it would have been like, that's it. We're going in front of the church and we're church disciplining you. And that's how this other crowd acts like we act, No, we're saying for us and like our home, that doesn't happen. Like we don't allow certain words in our home. My husband has also said, obviously, he will not allow certain men preach from his pulpit that are going to use language, that are going to use the world's language in a worldly way, because there is a clear difference between the world's language and the way a Christian should talk, the way a Christ follower should talk. With that being said, you don't have to be perfect to come to church. You're going to struggle with some sins. That's why we come to church, because we provoke one another to good works, right? And her being around me, who doesn't use language like that, is going to provoke her to use better language. If someone is struggling with a hidden sin, him being around good, godly men who can encourage him to be a good husband and abandon, hidden sins, that's going to provoke him to good work. So church is not a place where everyone's perfect and no one ever messes up. Church is a place where we can provoke each other to good works. We can encourage each other. We can have accountability. We can hear preaching from the word of God and get better as Christians, get better as moms, get better as wives, get better as husbands. That's what church is for. So yeah, you don't have to be perfect to attend church, and slip-ups are going to happen, and we have to be forgiving. So my job as a pastor's wife is to be my husband's wife. That's my job. And so for me, I don't go crazy overcommitting to things. Okay. I do what I'm able to do. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to do something just because I'm the pastor's wife. I'm going to do something because I want to do it, not because I think it's expected of me. Okay. So I love it when people take over different ministries in the church, because then that's less that I really have to oversee or worry about, or think about. And yes, that's a good note too, Ashley. Church members should not compare a pastor's wife to a former pastor's wife, because each pastor's wife is different and serves differently. And exactly. For me, I have a public ministry where I try to help other women outside of my church, along with, my church ladies that join in the live chat a lot. But that being said, that's not for everyone. I've tried to get Robin Boyle on here for years, and that is just not for her. So I've accepted her boundary of not coming on publicly. And I'm just, I have to accept that, because that's not her personality. Her personality is more where she kind of serves in the background. She does a lot of background things, but maybe something wouldn't run as well if she wasn't doing that, if she wasn't doing that job. So every pastor's wife is different. We're all going to have different personalities. When I became a pastor's wife, I had to kind of put aside the old IFB mentality of like, every pastor's wife has to fit a different mold. That's ridiculous. I don't know who, Beverly Hills maybe, I don't know who came up with this. Every pastor's wife does not need to fit a different mold, because my husband's different from any other pastor out there. I am specific to him. I am his helpmeet. I do what he wants, and that's all that matters. Like, yeah, I find it kind of weird when even pastors from the pulpit will like tell you how to run your home. Like, if you invite people over, you need to do this, and you need to make sure the house is deep cleaned, and you need to, blah, 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 blah. That is really weird to me, because I cannot imagine my husband getting in the pulpit and telling the ladies in the church like how to run their homes. That's really weird. So there's just some things that he's not going to touch on. I can give you tips, but at the end of the day, I'm always of the persuasion, like, my home's different from your home, and your home's different from my home. And here's some things that's helped with me, but you don't have to run your home like the McMurtry home. In fact, please don't. Please don't try to model your home after ours. Okay. So don't do that. That's creepy anyways. But do whatever you would do as a member. Exactly, Chanel. I'm not the pastor's wife. I'm the wife of the pastor. Exactly. So I help out in whatever area I can. But at the end of the day, I don't stress about it if something's not getting done, because I'm just a regular member like everyone else. Love like you have never been hurt. And this is really hard to do, especially when you've been hurt. Pastors' wives know what I'm talking about. It's really hard not to become jaded in the ministry. It's really hard not to become bitter, but bitterness will only affect this. Bitterness will only affect this, and it will only affect this. It won't affect other people. And we don't need to make other people suffer for the wrongdoings of someone else. So, yeah. Oh, and that's a hard one. That's a hard one, Ashley, because she said a church member told me her daughter was in rebellion right after she turned 2 because she wasn't fully potty trained, and she hadn't even started potty training her. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. So our church people are really good about this, I think, because my husband and I both made it clear. Like I tell my church ladies, hey, get after my kids if you need to. Like, especially Hannah, if she's like biting your kid, tell her to stop. Come get me. Tell me what's going on. But we have made it very clear, like, you don't need to be putting our kids on a pedestal. Our kids are not perfect. They're going to mess up. And don't put us on a pedestal. We're not perfect. We're going to mess up. And but also don't try to run my home either. Like, don't come to me because you're offended that we watched Willy Wonka or something. That's none of your business, honestly. So with different things like that, it's amazing how just because someone is a pastor of a church, everyone in the church, and this hasn't happened at mine, but everyone in the church thinks that they can tell the pastor how to raise their kids, or how to run their home, or like, I can't believe you're doing that, or, you shouldn't have your kids in sports. You need to take them out. That's crazy to me. That's foreign to me. And that just wouldn't happen here. So, be careful who you trust. Have many friends. So you're like, how can you say that when you just said to love like you've never been hurt? Well, you don't necessarily have to tell everyone every heartthrob moment that you have, like everything that's coursing through your heart, or like everything that your brain is thinking, or your deepest, darkest emotions and feelings. You don't have to tell everyone in the church that. Have a few close friends that you can do that with. Have a few close friends that you would trust. Like, if in the back of your mind you're thinking, this person might use this against me someday. I'm having a really bad day. I'm having a Monday. My kids are going crazy. Would this person use this against me one day when they turn on us and they're like, she didn't have her house under control. She has no right being a pastor's wife. If that is in the back of your head, trust your gut. Things have been used against me, and people sometimes, sadly, they will use anything that they can against you. And if they don't have anything against you, they'll make it up, or they'll be very, very nitpicky. They'll bring your kids into things, which is ridiculous. Don't get me started on that. Your adult kids, they'll bring your adult kids into things. People will use information against you. And that's just the sad truth of it, especially if you have a public ministry. A lot of people are just kind of waiting to see if they ever find something that they can use against you, and then they're going to blab it to the whole world, right? So you don't have to tell everyone everything that's going on in your life. You don't have to tell everyone your emotions and your feelings, and you can love them, which means pour yourself selflessly into them. Be there for them. Be there to encourage them. Be there to listen to them, help them out during hard times. but you also don't have to share your every emotion with someone that's not your husband or not a best friend. I have been very, very blessed. I think one of the things that keeps me sane when it seems like the entire world out there has turned against us and they're making videos about us, they're preaching sermons about me, calling me a repulsive woman and a Jezebel and, all this stuff. I think the thing that keeps me most sane is having my friends, first of all, knowing our church completely supports us and it doesn't matter what anyone out there says because they know us. But secondly, having close friends that I can vent to besides my husband because he gets sick of hearing about it. Very, very close friends that I can go to and be like, I'm having a really rough day. This is getting to me. What do I need to do? And they'll tell me, just get off your phone, like turn it off. If someone messages you, don't look at it. You have a do not disturb thing on your phone, put it on do not disturb and go get a coffee, go read a book, go take a bath, go take a nap, go eat something. I'm so thankful that I have friends like that in my life where I don't feel like I'm on an island and I don't feel like I'm alone. And I know that they care about me. And it's nice having someone to vent to who I know will get just as mad as I do about it. And no, that's not gossip. When you have a best friend and you tell her something that's going on in your life, that's not gossip. Just putting that out there. Yes, I like how you put that, Sarah. Big thoughts and big feelings are for safe people. And you'll know in your guts if they're safe or not. You'll know. Definitely. So another thing for pastors' wives, you have to live above reproach. And that is why, for me, I will not leave a comment publicly on a YouTube video, on Facebook, in any type of forum. I do not have troll accounts. I do not have anonymous accounts. I only have my Cassie Ray McMurtry account where with a picture of me and my husband. That's the only one, or the Gently Led Sisters account where everyone knows it's me with my picture on it. That's the only account I will use to leave comments. I do not have a troll account. I do not ever leave an anonymous account. I always back up my comments with my name. And the reason I do that is because it holds me accountable. And I do believe I should be above reproach in my language, in the way I approach people. Now, I am honest. I will say that I am honest. And some people have said my honesty is meanness, but I disagree. You can be honest without being mean-hearted. Okay. And part of not being mean-hearted is realizing that right is right and wrong is wrong. And if it's wrong to treat someone like this, it's wrong to treat your enemy like that as well. If something makes you uncomfortable when it comes to the way someone's treating your friend, it should make you uncomfortable when it comes to the way they're treating your enemy. And when you have ethics and you have character, then it doesn't matter. You don't need to be a part of a club or a part of a denomination or something. You just live your life the same all the time. No matter who your friend is, no matter who your friend isn't, you just live your life. You have ethics, you have character. Realize that men will fail you, but God never will. This is the number one thing I keep in my mind when it comes to all things ministry related. God is never going to fail us. God is always there for us. We are doing this for the Lord. He sees our struggles. He is there with us, encouraging us. His word encourages us. Sometimes during the darkest moments, I've felt the Lord the most. And when all friends, I've never really had every single friend forsake me, but I've had people who I really thought were close to me forsake me. When that has happened, that's when I felt his love the most in my life. And so sometimes we have to be at a very low moment to feel that, to know that God is there with us. So just remember that even when you're in those very, very low moments, that's when God is helping you through the most. Okay. Be your husband's biggest cheerleader and believe in him. Our men need to know that we believe in him. When you start a church plant, I believe it's 2 out of 5 or 3 out of 5. It might be that high now, will fail. Okay. That's just life. That's what's going to happen. Starting a church is extremely hard. When you don't have an established building, when you don't have an established core group of people, it is extreme. It is the hardest thing we've ever done. Starting a church is the hardest thing we've ever done, hands down. When you're not known online, when you are in a smaller rural town, it is tough work. You have to be out there pounding the pavement. You have to be making follow-up visits. You have to be out soul winning all the time. You have to be out passing out flyers and inviting people to church and having big days and staying there through the good times and the bad times. It takes consistency. We could have given up 2 years in, 5 years in, 10 years in. Now we're 13 years in, and we're still growing, and does God have bigger things for us in the future? I hope so. But if not, I'm happy. I'm content. Every step of the way, I've been happy. I've been content. I've been happy with our 10 people. I've been happy with our 20. I've been happy with our 50. I've been happy with 70. I've been happy when we went back down to 40. I'm happy with 60. Every number we've been at, I'm happy. And that is a choice that you have to make, because you definitely could let that get to you. But just remember, after a dry season comes a rainy season. And then you might have another dry season after that rainy season. But that's just the way of ministry. That's the way it goes. So you enjoy the people that are there in the bad times. You enjoy the people that are there in the good times. You don't hold the shortcomings of people that maybe caused a church split in the past against the new people that come in. You can't hold that against them. They haven't done anything. You can't not trust them because of someone in the past who did something to you. You have to love freely and love deeply without letting those past hurts get involved. So take everything that you hear about other pastors with a grain of salt and treat everyone with honesty and integrity. Honestly, we are done listening to sermons from the pulpit ripping other pastors when there is no proof. Most of the time, it turns out to be lies, because it has happened to us. Sermons, lie after lie after lie from the pulpit about us. When it comes to basically any doctrinal issue, whether that's repentance, especially repentance, we go off our personal interactions and the personal word of that person that the lies are being spread about or the rumors are being spread about, because there have been so many rumors about us, so many lies about us. We take everything we hear about other pastors with a grain of salt, and we're done listening to people badmouth someone for something we have not directly heard that person say, or something that person has not directly told us. We're done. We're done. So everything, you can tell us something about another pastor, and we probably won't believe you unless we hear it from them. That's just the way that we work. Stay close to God. You have to stay close to God. You're not going to get through it if you don't. If you don't have a personal relationship with the Lord, you're going to get discouraged a lot more. You're going to get depressed a lot more. If you're not in his word and reading it, if you're not praying and fasting, you're going to have a lot more battles. You're going to have a lot more depression. You're going to have a lot more emotional problems, whatever it is, if you don't stay close to the Lord. So you have to stay close to God in this thing. And this goes for everyone, obviously. Don't live your life raising your kids according to everyone in the church's standards, but according to your beliefs and your convictions. I remember I had a pastor's wife years ago who told me there were people in her church spreading rumors that her kid had, get ready for this, watched a Disney movie. Oh my goodness, watched a Disney movie. I looked at her and I said, she was very upset about it. I can't believe they're doing this rumor that my kid has watched a Disney movie. I looked at her and I said, so what if they have? Who cares? And why is this person making such a big deal out of a Disney movie? First of all. Second of all, why are they spreading this rumor? Just to bring you down? Third of all, they expect you to get kicked out of church or something for watching a Disney movie? Like, what is the purpose of this? And she's like, well, I'm just upset because my kid never has watched one. And I was like, you know what I would do? Just to spite that person, because someone doesn't have a right telling me what my kid can or cannot watch. I would go and I would get Cinderella and I would pop it in and let my kid watch it, because that's just how I roll. Because my family is my family. And my convictions are my convictions, and our standards are our standards. And no one gets to tell us how we raise our kids. Okay. And so far, I'm liking the outcome. So I'm going to stick to this. Okay. So the McMurtry household, we do things that your house might not, and that's totally fine. We have standards in place, like with words, that you might be a little more lax on. That's up to you. That's up to your discretion. But I feel really, really bad for the pastor's families. We all live in a glass house because so much of a pastor's qualifications is dependent on how his family is. If he can't even lead his family, if he can't even get his adult children to follow in this path that he is promoting, why would anyone else? His family is the closest to him. His family knows his character. His family knows him the best. His family sees if he has outbursts of temper. His family sees if he lives what he preaches. His family knows if he's a hypocrite or not. So it's a hard sell for me to follow a man who cannot get his own children to follow him. That's just me personally. And let's face it, your kids can disqualify you in the ministry. So because of that, we do live in glass houses. That being said, it is not up to every other family in the church to dictate what the pastor's family does. That's not how it works. And I've seen too many pastors' families that get so wrapped up in being so concerned in what everyone in the church thinks, and they go over the top. They go extremely over the top. They're extremely harsh with their kids when it comes to correction. They are putting things into place in their home that they don't even have a conviction about. Let's say TV. You know, they refuse to have a TV hanging up in their living room because, gasp, what if a family comes over and they see it and they don't think we should have a TV, and then, you know, and they leave the church? Well, if someone leaves the church over that, then they probably were going to cause problems down the road from something else. So I know with our family, we've never tried to hide who we are or why we do the things that we do. We don't throw a sheet over the TV hanging in the corner of our living room when we have guests over and make them think it's a pretty backdrop or something. No, we are who we are. You know, we don't try to hide that. And thankfully, we don't have church members thinking we should do something with our kids or not do something with our kids, or telling us that, you know, we should raise our kids differently. We don't have that. But I do think that in some churches, that culture is created oftentimes by the pastor not putting his foot down and just saying, listen, no, you have no place in telling me how to run my family. Okay, so oftentimes, or just letting critique change the way he's doing things with his kids, and your kids notice that. They're going to pick up on that you're only changing because Fred in the church had a problem with it. So you don't live your life based off of what those in the church say, basically. So that is a good verse, Chanello. I like that. She put 2 Corinthians 12:15, and I will very gladly spend and be spent for you, though the more abundantly I love you, the less I be loved. That's a good verse, but it's what happens. It's what happens in ministry. And that would be a very good verse. Man, that happened to one of the greatest men of the Bible. So if it's happening, if Jesus had accusers, we're going to have accusers because we are nowhere near Jesus. If Paul suffered all these horrible things, and then he said, and the end of it, the worst was what basically the churches brought for him, the persecution from the churches, or having to oversee the churches. If that was the toughest thing, that tells you it's a hard job. So yeah, that's a good verse, but that kind of sums up ministry life in a lot of ways. So if you're listening to this and you're like, this does not pertain to me, as a member, don't be that member that's nitpicky. Don't be that member that's always trying to find fault with the pastor's wife and the pastor and his kids. Don't be judgmental. You know, realize that their family is their family. It's a different entity. You're not in charge you're not in charge of what the pastor's kids turn out like. Just like the pastor does have a certain responsibility to preach the whole counsel of God, but at the end of the day, he doesn't stand in front of the Lord for how your family turned out. You stand in front of the Lord for how your family turned out. Okay? Every dad has the responsibility of their family, of each different family entity, and them alone. They're not going to stand in front of the Lord and give account for someone else's family. So keeping that in mind, just be a member that's encouraging your pastor's wife and him. Don't expect treat her like any other member in the church. Don't put her on a pedestal. Don't think her kids are going to be perfect. She's going to have bad days. She's going to be stressed. She's going to be tired. You know, with me, I'm just pretty open about if I'm having a bad day or not. I don't try to pretend like I have it all together and I never have bad days. I'm like, sometimes I have a horrible headache. I didn't get any sleep last night. It's been terrible in my house. My washer's broken. I'm a little stressed out. Why try to pretend? I'm pretty open about everything. I am an open book when it comes to stuff like that. So if you are listening, all these things that I said, just be a member that is there to grow your family in the Lord, learn from the past, because my husband does have a lot of wisdom when it comes to the truths of God's word. And I'll be the first one to say that. But I live with the man. I see the way he lives his life. I see the way he reads his Bible. I am amazed constantly by what he can just pull out of his head regarding scripture and the depth of knowledge he has. He puts a lot of study and time into it. But if you are listening to this and you're a member of a church, just pray for your pastor's family. Love your pastor's family. Realize that when you have bad days, your pastor's life has bad days too. Your car breaks down, their car breaks down. You have financial difficulties, they have financial difficulties. You're having a tough time making ends meet, so are they. So they're just human like you are. And then my last tip for ministry wives is have friends outside of church, specifically other pastors' wives that know what you're facing, know what you're going through, can be an encouragement to you. No one knows what it's like until they've been there. And when it comes to this thing of ministry, it can be really lonely sometimes when you're pouring everything into your ministry and yet it's not growing. But then God blesses and boom, you'll have 2 families join or 3 families join or 4 families join. You'll have new people from town start coming. So hang in there, take each day as it comes. A man that hath friends must show himself friendly. If you're struggling, reach out to someone, but my biggest tip, like if I didn't have the friends that I had during those early days, not so much now because I have a lot of friends in church too, but during those early days, it was really tough. It was sometimes our family and one other member. It was never just our family for a church service, but it would be our family and one other member, our family and like one other smaller family. And a lot of times it was older people or people that weren't my age, people that didn't have kids. My kids pretty much grew up without having like a youth group or things. And that's another tip. Fellowship with like-minded churches. Here in Illinois, we have a lot of other good IFB churches within a couple hours drive. So we have the IFB camp that Chloe helped out at that we go to, and it's so nice to be around other Baptists. It's so nice not to feel like the oddball dressing modestly. It's so nice to have like-minded fellowship and be around other pastors' wives and be around other youth pastors' wives. So we fellowship with a lot of people and we are truly independent. We have friends that have NIFB doctrine, not behavior, doctrine. We have friends that have IFB doctrine and behavior. And we have, I have some friends that aren't even Baptist. I have some friends that aren't even saved. And I like talking to people. I like figuring them out. I like knowing their story. I like having friends. So for me, having close friends in those early days, especially, in the early days, Kelly Monkowski and her husband started a church the same time as us. And that's what knit our hearts together, was because we were both church planters' wives. And we talked each other through those days, those hard times. And now they have a thriving church. We have a thriving church. Kelly has since gone on to heaven. And our husband's remarried now, but she was there for those tough days with him. She stuck it out, and they were in the new building before she died, before she went to heaven. But you just have to stick it out. Sunnier days are in the horizon and God will be with you. And I went long on this, but I knew I would because I combined 2 topics. But I hope that helps. I know there's a lot of ministry right now that are bogged down. And maybe they're discouraged because they're not experiencing growth, or people are being nitpicky, or people are giving them problems, or lies are being spread about them. And I just want you to know, I see you, I feel for you, but you know what? More importantly, God does. God sees you. God knows what you're struggling with. Rest in Him. Remember why you're doing this. Sunnier days are coming, and God will bless you if you remain faithful. You will reap if you remain faithful. So just hang in there, be faithful, next year is a new year with new possibilities. Tomorrow is fresh with no mistakes. And hang in there. God will bless. So I hope you all have hi, Alice. I love you. Hi, Alice. Okay, let me answer this question. I was going to say bye real quick, but okay, I see a little truth in this, but I totally don't agree. I've also heard that Mrs. Hiles was very standoffish and didn't have many relationships with people in her church, and I don't agree with that. I feel as if that generation, okay, nothing against them, but that generation put themselves on a pedestal. They put themselves as unreachable, unattainable, unapproachable, and I don't want to be that way. That's not me. That's not my husband. We're very approachable. We have people reach out to us all the time, message us, and we're there. Like, we'll take your call. We'll message you. We'll email you. We're very approachable people. And I think that's how we should be because we're not higher than anyone. We're not higher. Jolie asked, Mrs. Hiles taught that it isn't wise to be close friends with church members. I am a missionary wife and I don't have many friends. What do you think about it? I think you have to be really careful in being unreachable, unattainable, or unapproachable. I think you have to be really careful about that. I am pretty close to almost all the women in my church, honestly. Like, I'm close to all of them. And for me, that's how I have to live my life. I don't do shallow relationships, if that makes sense. I like deep, meaningful relationships. I'm not a person who's going to sit down with you and talk about the weather. I'm a person that's going to sit down with you and get to the heart or the root of something, whether that's a problem, whether that's a personality thing. I want to know what's going on in your head. I want to know what's going on in your heart. And I can't do that if I am standoffish with the ladies in our church. So for me and my church, I don't work that way. Now, that being said, okay, I feel like when you love deeply, you're also hurt deeply if things happen. And that has proven true because I do put myself out there and I do try to love everyone. If they end up turning on me, it's very hurtful. It's very painful. But I don't allow the fear of being hurt to keep me from being friends with ladies in my church. I can't do life that way. That's not me. And maybe your personality is one where you can. And I've met a lot of pastors' wives who I feel have walls up and are very standoffish because they have been hurt in the past. And I never wanted to become like that. So I am very intentional about not holding past sins of other people that have hurt me against new people that come in my church. I don't want to hold that against them. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that, but I can see why she would teach that because she was probably hurt. She was probably hurt, honestly. And for her to cope, she just said, okay, no close friends for me. I don't think it's wise to have a close friend because then you're going to be hurt. But if we live our life like that, what kind of life is that? I want to live life with close relationships. I want to live life with deep relationships. I don't want to live life with walls up. So for me, personality, I disagree with that advice. So that being said, be willing to be hurt. Be willing to put yourself out there, but be willing to hurt. Be willing to be hurt. And just know God brings different friends into our lives for different seasons. And even if something happens where there's a fallout and you go down different paths, God will send someone else. God will send another friend to fill that void. He always has for me. Every different season in life has brought along different people that I needed or people that needed me during that season. So that's the way I look at life. So yes, I do. I do care for my friends. I do. And that's just how I've decided to live my life. And yeah, I've been hurt. I've been hurt a lot, but I don't want to become bitter about it. I don't want to dwell on it. And I don't want to hold the sins of other people in the past against my new friends in the future. So that's how I live my life. I hope all of you ladies have a great week. Next week, I'm going to try to do the coffee giveaway, at least 3 or 4. We're going to do a Christmas coffee card giveaway next week. Okay, so tune in for that. I'm probably going to have, I have a couple topic topic ideas lined up. One of them is, what do I do if I feel like I'm failing at this motherhood thing? We're going to talk about that. Another one is, and I'm going to have Amanda on to talk about this with me because she has experience in this. I do not. What do I do if I'm starting from scratch when it comes to this homemaking stuff? I've never been raised this way. I'm so far behind other women my age when it comes to homemaking and cooking and cleaning and all that. So those are a couple topics that we're going to do over the next couple weeks. So thanks for hanging in there with me. I hope you all of you ladies have a great time prepping for the holidays. Don't get too burned out. Don't eat too many cookies.